this one makes me feel a bit uneasy. The logo immediately starts off with some giant orange walls encasing you, not giving you any time to admire their sky background, which, by the way, has less frames in it when compared to the logo animation. You're left to sit there for nearly 5 seconds to question what the hell it is speeding past underneath your feet, while some loud, shouty keyboard trumpets blare at you. And then you realize, wait, we had been falling through the logo's text the whole time? The CG looks so 80s that you couldn't really tell. But while your mind processes that, the Warner Brothers shield slowly flies in above you, like it's a scary UFO hovering, about to shoot a laser at either the text or the city underneath the sky or something. But luckily, the shield just turns 45 degrees just above the text and just shines, while the loud trumpet music just ends abruptly. This just looks very 80s, you know? The unrendered models, the keyboard sounding music, the slightly creepy way the shield flies in. It's almost a bit too much for a child to handle. Now this is a more beautiful logo. The tingly piano opens up the better looking, more clouded sky backdrop, but then the shield logo fades in, all invisible. The pianist dangles his fingers down the piano in order to make the shield all visible, and it ends on a big booming note as the bigger, more detailed logo stares at you, intimidatingly. This is a much more welcoming logo, and it shows you that your movie tape will be a good one. From the studio that is currently erasing all of their classic content and good upcoming movies out of existence, and any movies they do plan on releasing are just...
You have gone too far.
Did you say toot fart?
I did not. I said too far.
Toot fart?
Too far.
I heard toot fart again.
You are making me want to praise the Mike Myers movie. Is humanity this doomed as a species? While I don't think I ever saw the studio's main movie logo when I was a kid, I did see something that's very similar to it. Their Family Entertainment's logo. You know, the logo that would play on home media releases of, say, Animaniacs, Scooby-Doo, Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, and any movies that were made by them. So I might as well talk about both of them at once, since the logo animations is almost exactly the same. It begins with an aerial view of the studios themselves. Where's the tower? With a gold overlay. Then everything goes all wavy. Then more harsh ripples invade the screen, like what happens after dropping a boulder into a lake. Then it zooms out to show you that the camera was focusing on the logo's outline the entire time. Yeah, I never understood all of the waves and ripples when I was a kid. But when you look at the top and the left side of the logo's outline design, straight, then a slight bump, straight again, then some harshly sharp corners, straight once more, and then the banner brings us back to reality. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense now, and it only took me 20 years to see the logo like this. God, I'm retarded. The logo then hovers away from lying down in the sky to standing to show us its splendor, while playing a grand and enjoyable rendition of the main Looney Tunes theme. But just as you start to notice the different text on the banner than usual, who should show up from behind the shield than Bugs Bunny, the most popular cartoon character the studio owns, and a very welcoming face for the child audience. And he's also wearing his tuxedo too, indicating that the movie we're about to watch will be a truly special time. Well, yeah, I mean, the Iron Giant. This is a really good child-friendly rendition of a classic logo. It may have some confusing visuals at the beginning, but it has good visuals, a great music piece, and some fluid hand-drawn animation of a beloved character. I just wish that Warner Brothers would give this much of a damn about the Looney Tunes nowadays as they did when this logo was made. And since I'm probably never going to talk about them anywhere else in my life, I feel like mentioning the Warner Brothers logos that kick off Harry Potter 2 to 8. I fucking love these. Not only did they show that they wanted to put more effort into the visuals than just showing the already existing studio logo, like they did in Philosopher's Stone.
What?
But they immediately engross the viewer into these films at the very beginning. Not only that, but they get a lot darker, unnerving, threatening, or mournful as the films go on. In Chamber of Secrets, since it's a direct sequel to the mostly family-friendly, charming, whimsical world of the first film, it is shown against a warm sunset in the same sky we saw from the usual logo. So it's not too out of the ordinary. Plus, it was the only time where the shield didn't have a transparent center, so it docks onto the floor to avoid the camera. It's funny. Prisoner of Azkaban is when the logos start getting all creepy. Yeah, the film is the wackiest and most comedic out of all the films, but that too was also really dark, in both cases. So, we start with an unexplained light going on and off very quietly. Then we see it through the giant metal shield logo, creepily shining in the dead of night. And the sound effects make it feel like the logo is right there in the Dursleys' garden, and we are slowly floating through it towards the blinking light spell in Harry's room. Goblet of Fire being the film that made this series a lot darker and not for kids anymore, has a more sinister take in the middle of a cloudy night sky with some frightening strings in the music, indicating to you how serious the return of Voldemort is. Order of the Phoenix is a lot more silent at first. You've seen the return of the most dangerous wizard in history. He killed off an innocent student who didn't do anything wrong, and your whole outlook on the series has changed forever. So this one is very quiet in order for you to reflect on everything, with the shield being as dark as the clouds. You can faintly hear Nagini's parcel tongue getting louder the closer you get. But then the whimsical theme song to the series plays as the movie's title comes out of the darkness, showing that there's a little bit of hope and optimism left. But after witnessing the sudden death of Harry's only remaining living relative in the last movie, the Half-Blood Prince opens up in a sinister, gloomy way. We glide very slowly towards the logo. The main theme playing is quiet and uneasy, like we're not sure if we should continue forward. I mean, who knows which other beloved character will leave this franchise? And we see lightning striking inside these storm clouds, sort of representing Harry's sadness and anger over Sirius's death and wanting revenge on Bellatrix. Very emotional. Deathly Hallows Part 1 takes place in a more calmer sky, but something doesn't feel right. It's all silent, and all we can hear is some weird clicking and scratching sounds. We later find out that these sounds are from the Locket Horcrux, and we see its dangerous effects happening on the logo. The Horcrux's power rusts the metal logo to the point of disintegration, and it distorts the main theme too, making it feel more creepy than hopeful. And by Deathly Hallows Part 2, we have ran out of hope. Our favorite elf, Dolby, was murdered and mourned. The most dangerous wizard in history now has his hands on the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand ever made, so God only knows what he'll do. There's still some Horcruxes at large, and we don't know where they are. And this is the last time that we'll truly see all of these characters and their world. So the logo is all sad, mournful, and heartbreaking. We have come a long way since the whimsical, charming days of Philosopher's Stone, and the logo flies towards you the slowest it has ever flown, because it knows that we don't want to leave this world forever. We love it here, we love these characters, and we have to see them all one more time before the absolute bloodbath that happens at Hogwarts. And the angelic voice from the music piece is just a punch to the gut, the final note before we lose everything, but also gain everything. I love that this film series has grown up and matured in the best ways along with the audience, who were charming little kids when it started and grew into more dark-minded, smarter, and more braver adults when it ended. And these opening logos are the prime visual representation of that. I love these movies to death. You have no idea. We haven't left the realm of creepy logos just yet, because there was the one that played at the start of my Underground Ernie DVD, Warner Vision International. Well, it was originally known as Warner Music Vision in the USA, which released music videos and other music things onto home media. But for some UK releases, like, say, Underground Ernie, they changed it to International Vision. I don't know how stuff like this works. Like I said in my Ernie DVD video, this logo is creepy as hell. It starts off flying at high speeds through outer space while a choir plays in the background. Then two stars from both sides of the screen fly towards each other, collide, and crash into a bright white supernova. A giant ball of a gas explosion rises, and while the creepy choir sings at you with the wrong notes, some red things come bursting out of the gas ball. I used to think that these were rose petals when I was younger, but after researching and looking a little bit closer at the screen, they are actually chocolate-covered asteroids. Okay, the fact that they are asteroids makes this even worse. Once the gas breezes through you, you can see a spinning, rounded rectangle in the void of space, with the world map stuck on the side in white. The logo then turns more three-dimensionally to see the front of it, a metallic surface with two bean holes and a P-shaped hole carved down to the other side. It's supposedly meant to be the letter W, but it looks too simplified that I could never tell. As the rectangle flies away towards the center, the space background changes to a flat navy blue, and the three-dimensional text flies in from beneath you and falls under the logo, while the creepy synthesizer music rises and lowers until it decides to end. The kids who wanted to see some dated CGI trains didn't want to see this the second they popped in the DVD. Why was this unnerving logo even here? It looks ancient compared to the rest of this disc released in 2006 or 7. And what does Underground Ernie have in relation to anything Warner? I don't get it. So I technically didn't have any tapes that officially had this logo, but it was shown in its entirety during a single promotional ad on a few Warner Brothers tapes I had back then. It was meant to advertise some Mary-Kate and Ashley tapes. I never owned those tapes because I was a boy who ate Yorkies. Urgh. But they did keep playing the entire logo every time this ad played, so I might as well include it here. We look up to the night sky from the Earth to see a massive, flat-surfaced metal planet. It then turns 90 degrees to show us the solid blue, rounded back end. Then the back duplicates itself twice, and some field of light swoops across the sky, eliminating the central blue piece in the middle, showcasing that it's meant to show a black capital D against the blue. The finished logo then rises up, leaving space for the text to fly in as the grand music plays its grandest notes. This one is pretty good. The CG is okay, it's imaginative, and I like the music. Now on to something that I properly recognize. This one is set in a completely white, low-lit room. Either the room inside of an old house, or a prison cell, or something, where a large handmade mobile spins around, eventually at an angle where you can read the studio's name. Then it spins away to the side as we see the shadow of a rooster, probably from a weather vane or something, since a rooster is a symbol for the studio, according to some old film reels I've seen from them. I guess the rooster in this logo makes sense. In fact, upon looking at this logo, it almost looks like an exaggerated cartoon drawing of a young chick. Yeah, can you see it? The point of the speech bubble being the beak, the dots in the P and the A being the eyes, even the exclamation speech bubble being its tail feathers. If chicks have tail feathers. And you know what's even more ironic? What was one of the only home media releases I saw this logo on as a kid? Chicken Run! The connections to chickens never ends with this logo, doesn't it? So this one has got multiple duplicates of the same two blocks that make up the logo, zooming around from side to side in some big blue void, while some spotlights shine around to catch one of each. But when two blocks finally decide to slow down and connect, no spotlights actually shine on them to reveal the logo's glory. Okay. Yeah, sounds a bit too familiar, does it not? I chose this logo's music for my current intro I use since 2018 because, well, I love Aardman. Who doesn't love Aardman? They are one of the greatest animation studios in history. They put loving attention, detail, and witty humor into all of their productions.
I've got quite a copper's gut myself, actually.
Oh, I can see that, Chief.
And they hardly ever produce anything terrible. At worst, one or two of their movies would be boring or forgettable. But even then, you can still see that they enjoyed making them in places. Anyway, this was the only Aardman logo I ever saw in full as a kid. And it is not really all that Aardman-like, if you ask me. A world going around by many gears and cogs, being turned by a little blue box with limbs and cogs of its own. We see it controlling the world like a hamster on a wheel that has hands, creepy people, buildings, cars, clouds, and flying fish. Okay. Then a giant middle-aged hand comes in out of nowhere, grabs the box like he's about to crush it like a tomato, turns the box off with its switch at the top, and the whole world just stops automatically, just at the exact point where the red letters in front accurately spell the name Aardman. So, will this whole world collapse now because it's all been frozen for the rest of time? Will the middle-aged man have the decency to switch the box back on again and let this civilization live? Or is the mechanical world a metaphor of the struggles and hardships of real life, and the hand represents any Aardman production, which switches the hardships of life off so that you can relax and laugh a little bit with either Wallace and Gromit, Creature Comforts, or, Pib and Pog. You people should look up Aardman Dark Side at some point. you may or may not be intrigued. I only ever saw a picture of their older logo in some 80s productions of theirs, but I never actually saw the logo in motion as a kid. And honestly, I'm really glad that I didn't, because it is scary as all hell. The music sounds threatening, everything is inside of a small box, and the visuals are just questionable. Like, the bow tie is a butterfly, the clouds are hung by strings, and there's some creepy, smirking man's face inside of a cardboard square, and yet his arms, torso, and forehead are missing. I'm really glad that my wrong trousers tape never had this threatening logo, because I never would have wanted to see the best Wallace and Gromit production again if I did. And that would have been criminal. More criminal than him. Now we're getting into the much more copyrighted material, starting with a heavenly beacon of light shining from a torch. As the camera zooms out, we see that the torch is being held by a beautiful woman in gracious robes, standing against a massive backdrop of giant, moving, colorful clouds, and from what I imagined as a kid, she is stepping down from a huge, long set of stairs that lead from heaven in the sky and onto the human world. I mean, why else would she be holding such a bright torch? What can I say? Everyone knows this logo, and for good reason. This is basically the movie equivalent of Lady Liberty. Graceful, majestic, and heavenly. Now this logo is jaw-dropping, starting off all pitch black with some slight shadows of a huge cloud mountain, but it's accompanied by spiritual little twinkles and a proud brass. As the daylight rises brighter, the music rises more bombastic, and soon a bright heavenly light emerges and floods the screen. As the music hits its main chorus, we see a big, beautiful Pegasus with huge, majestic wings galloping out of the light and into the freedom of this cloudy land, as if it's a creature from heaven proudly running through a portal into the living realm. The way the Pegasus is shown is amazing. The horse was filmed on a live-action camera in some plane hangar from what I've heard, and they added these huge wings on a computer in post. And I've even heard that the cloud backdrop was some sort of model set. This is easily one of the best logos I have ever seen in my life. But if not that, then it's the most beautiful, powerful, and majestic ones that I have ever seen. In case you didn't know, both Columbia Pictures and Tristar Pictures are both owned by Sony. as evident in the more recent version of each logo. So the home media side of the studios would combine into the name Columbia-Tristar Home Media. It starts off with some new filmed camera footage of the same big clouds, though edited to be in the same colors as the movie logos. We zoom out to see that the cloud background is inside of a gold box frame. The logo's text flies in up close from the top and the bottom. Then, as the moving clouds start to reach the center, the box frame splits into two separate frames to show the Columbia Torch Lady and the TriStar Pegasus. However, the Pegasus uses the same cloud background as the Columbia logo, instead of recreating the unique cloud mountain it has in its own logo. This one is quite short, but nice enough. It goes straight to the point. This one just scares me. It'll be hard for me to explain, but it just scares me, okay? It begins with a sinister pin drop to a close-up of the Torch Lady's covered feet. Why? Some trumpets can be heard as we fade over to the Pegasus spreading out its wings. This would be decent, but then it changes to a close-up of the horse's muzzle staring at you and backing away while the music plays this threatening accompaniment of rising strings. The Pegasus looks dead-on scary in this shot. How would you like being up close and personal to the long, intimidating face of a giant horse? And the way its face backs away, he raises its wings and he lifts a hoof up. It makes me think that the Pegasus is about to attack you, digging its sharp-edged hooves into your body. God. As the music hits its sinister peak, we fade away to a close-up of the Torch Lady's face. Again, personal space. Then it fades to the lady and the Pegasus side by side, as some more cheerful sounding trumpets end the song, and the text flickers into the logo. I can guarantee that they were trying to make this logo grand and majestic, but the music and everything to do with the Pegasus comes off more as intimidating. I thought the horse was beautiful in the original logo, but now the higher quality and the more flawless addition added of his wings rising, and it stares at you threateningly as it gallops towards you, along with that sinister drum boom. It's unsettling to me. While the Torch Lady remains as still as the statue it's paying homage to, the horse moves forward as if it wants to attack you. Also, what's with the constant letters of different sizes flickering and changing throughout the animation? Did you want us to enjoy the higher quality pictures of these characters moving via Photoshop? Or did you want to remind us of the Matrix? Overall, I'm just creeped out by this logo, man. I always was, ever since I was a little kid watching Stuart Little 2 by his lonesome in the dark of night in his room. There was also a second version that used the exact same visuals but changed the music to a much less threatening piece and more majestic-like. appreciate the change, but it doesn't lighten up the scary visuals of the horse. And I'm not a fan of the changing text being sped up either, as if it wasn't moving fast enough already. God, I just want to go back to the Pegasus that was majestic with big grand music, instead of the threatening Pegasus that I want to turn into heavenly glue before it smashes me into dust with its hooves. Speaking of Stuart Little too, this logo had me dead confused when I played the movie on disc for the first time. I was thinking, good Jesus, it looks like this movie has grown a lot darker in tone and lighting since the first film. I mean, just look at New York here. But I was wrong. Of course I was. This was actually a special animation informing you that your disc has some top-of-the-range surround sound editing or something. For example, when an off-screen character is calling from the left, you can hear their voice in your left ear, while the foreground noise and music is still playing in the foreground. So this animation is kinda similar to the Macrovision logo. Yeah, except it's much more clearer on what it's informing you. I mean, everyone knows what Dolby Digital sound is, right? There were dozens of animations from the company that demonstrated their special surround sound technology, but the only one I ever saw when I was a kid was this one titled City. It immediately starts all dark and sinister, as already lightning is crashing as we fly at high speeds past a rocky canyon and into a black, dimly lit city. As a screaming guitar note is wailing, a helicopter comes flying through in between the buildings towards a Dolby cinema. The theater's lights switch on one by one as we pan out to see the building. It's advert text saying that it's playing The Sound of the Future, aka their sound editing technology on your disc. Then we zoom into the cinema as the doors burst open, revealing a drowning white light. Then it just cuts over to the company's logo, with the helicopter's searchlight riding the top of it. At least that's what I thought this blue light was. Such a sudden and blunt way to address this new audio technology of yours, because depending on the movie you have, the lightning and the dark empty city would just come out of left field. Nothing like the charming little sequel about a little mouse living in New York and falling in love with a canary bird. This one is really nice and angelic, starting off with what you think is the moon glowing against a cloudy night sky. Then, psych! A fishing end falls into a body of water, subverting your expectations. We soon zoom up through the masses of clouds to see who was casting the line. A glowing white boy resting and fishing on the crescent form of the moon. What do you think he would do if there was a full moon or a dark moon or something? As we take in this unique sight with those beautiful strings, the crescent moon forms into a capital D, and then the rest of the text fades in. As the trumpets build up what the text will say, we streak through some more clouds. And a soft acoustic guitar shows us the finished logo in all of its glory. I really like this one. Soft, relaxing, has some nice visuals with a consistent blue and white color scheme. It's the kind of music to put you in a relaxed state, resting and opening your mind, ready for the feature presentation. I feel like this is one of the better attempts of showcasing a more family-friendly take on a famous studio logo. While the main studio's logo is set at night, the animation logo, since it's catered more towards a demographic that has to go to school, is set during the day. How do you think the moon can exist in broad daylight? Well, I know that you can actually see the moon in the bright blue sky in real life if you wake up early enough, but who would ever want to wake that early? It also shows us that the boy doesn't live on the moon, he lives on the surface world, and he regularly flies up to the moon with a bunch of big balloons. The very thing a young child can imagine. He lets go of the balloons, ready to fish. The balloons float higher towards some more clouds above the moon. I didn't know that can happen. And they all burst, revealing the studio's text, but this time in different colors. Isn't it lucky that each letter floated in the exact right place to spell DreamWorks, and not something like this? Just a funny little thing to think about. This one is bright, friendly, and it sets you up for an enjoyable experience. And the logo playing a rendition of Shrek's main theme is icing on the cake. This logo is really nice. It has some stunning visuals, a unique set piece, and I like how it's all crafted. But I have just one problem. Where's the music? Oh wait, this was the 80s. Plenty of logos from later iconic movie studios were completely silent as well. It wasn't just Paramount. But it is always nice to see a beautiful tall mountain behind a lovely lake in front of a beautiful rising glowing sunset. Okay, serious question. We are now in the 21st century. Every single movie studio known to man has their own majestic, memorable piece of music with each other's iconic visuals. So why is Paramount Pictures the only one by at least 2004 to remain completely silent? Why did they still choose to have no music whatsoever in the new fucking millennium? They seriously had to wait until around 2013 to come up with an original music piece? Seriously? On your 100th anniversary? That long? But besides that glaring issue, this is a visual upgrade in places. We can see where the stars of the logo actually came from. They are all shooting stars raining down from the sky, and they magnetically zip through the ocean of clouds towards the mountain. And like with the original DreamWorks logo, the visuals avert our expectations again. You would think the camera would move to the right towards the mountain so that we can see the stars arch around the summit. But actually, what we see of the stars was in reality a reflection of the spectacle from the reflective metal surface of the text as it too flies towards the mountain. That's a really cool perspective. Although, I'm not much of a fan of this variant removing the landscape around the mountain which we saw before and after this one. You know, the lake, the pine trees, the peaks and valleys. Instead, the O4 logo makes it look like this mountain is in the middle of nowhere, just sticking out of an endless ocean of clouds over some infinite empty wasteland. So while this logo has some improvements, it equally has a few regressions. So, yeah. But do you want to know how to startle someone? When you play the studio's main logo at the beginning of a DVD, they expect it all to be dead silent. But then you hear some rising, whooshing sounds, and then suddenly a country-sized disc flies in from the ground, swooshes very loudly, and boomerangs behind the entire mountain, along with the rest of the crap surrounding it. It then beams itself into a simple metallic logo, while some scary thunder noises can still be heard around you. Yeah, the one time in this era where they tried to give this logo any sound, and it was only coming from the disc the size of Pluto. They didn't add any sound to the stars or the logo text so that it could fit in more. Nah. Just startle the audience with something they never would have expected, even if they muted the TV, just to inform them that this is, in fact, a DVD. We know it's a DVD. We've bought the ruddy thing. The other memorable time they ever added sounds to the Paramount logos was in, of all things, the Bayformer movies. This was probably the best part of any of these 5 terrible movies, because the strange, metallic beeping and swooping in perfect time to the visuals of these familiar logos. It creeps out and intrigues the viewer at the same time. These sounds were normally the kind of sounds those giant, murderous, destructive Decepticons made. So you go into the first movie thinking these creepy sounds are reflective of all of the giant alien robots we're going to see, including the Autobots, whom we don't know yet if they are trying to protect the world. And in Revenge of the Fallen, where there are hundreds more Decepticon monsters that either crash land and invade the Earth or were created by the Allspark, including the sinister Fallen, the return of the destructive Megatron, and the massive Leviathan that is Devastator. These alien sounds over the logos makes you really scared as to what or who the the Autobots have to face in this one. No joke, I went with my dad to see Revenge of the Fallen in cinemas back in 2009, and the logo sounds alone made me want to leave the place out of fear, knowing what the Decepticons could do in the first movie. And I actually did leave with my dad in fear once Optimus Prime was killed. No, seriously, I walked out of Revenge of the Fallen, one of the worst films ever made, not out of disgust or disappointment as a fan, because I was barely a fan by 2009, but because Optimus suddenly getting stabbed, which doesn't even make sense within the movie's established lore by the way, scared me. I was 12 years old, and that creeped me out. Maybe it was because I was never used to the bigger and louder cinema experience like most people, or because there was something seriously mentally wrong with me, but that life story of mine is so fucking embarrassing, and now I regret ever saying it to the open public just now. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, these edited logos are the best part of the Bayformer movies, especially the first two. I just love the creepy alien sound effects with them. Moving on. This one opens with a cartoon dog named Slap T Pooch, originally from a Oh Yeah cartoon short, emerging out of the shadows of a really dark room. He breathes in as if he's about to say something when he notices a tiny blob of orange goop the size of Whoville. He touches it, it sticks to his finger, he shakes it hard to dispose of it, but then it flies around the border of the screen. Slap stops it with his feet. He's now got goop all over them, so this prompts him to splat about all over the floor. I'm not sure if this is out of anger that he can't get rid of the goop, or enjoyment after seeing how fun the goop can be. But his messing around makes him gasp as all of the noise has awakened a giant purple troll guy who steps on him and flattens him to shut him up after waking him from his nap. Or something. And the troll's stomp on the goop formed it into the Nickelodeon footprint logo, which was plastered on the gate of the studios themselves in the early 2000s. Good Jesus, even in 1998, Nickelodeon was associated with feet. And this was a few years before Dan Schneider fucked up the lives of countless minor actors. Anyway, this logo perfectly captures the great animation, fun visuals, creativity, and wacky hijinks that you would expect from any classic Nicktoon. It's charming. This was the one that I have seen and can remember a lot more, since it was played on the true ending of SpongeBob SquarePants. No one can deny. But unlike the Rugrats movie logo that fully embodied what Nick animations are like, this one just features a load of randoms, with hardly any rhyme or reasoning behind them. the Big Bang, a small watery planet, a rose, a zeppelin in the sky, some goldfish in the ocean, what looks like some Hawaiian lei, and then it ends with the logo in the form of some orange and purple bubbles in a giant ocean of syrup or something. I mean, you could argue that the Zeppelin is a reference to the Kids' Choice Awards, and the goldfish and the logo in the ocean were the only things that reminded me of SpongeBob me Bob, since, you know, this logo was only ever used in the SpongeBob movie. I vastly prefer the music theme for this logo. It always sounded very emotional to me, but it doesn't really capture the spirit of Nickelodeon as much as the '98 logo did, so I'll have to give the point to that one. A grand and spectacular logo which features nothing more than a long sweeping shot of this famous structure of bold, big, proud letters and numbers in all of their glory, while a catchy arrangement of trumpets and strings play along merrily. How proud was the studio with this logo? This structure is in the middle of Hollywood, aka the birthplace of classic, iconic, and historic films. That is when you know that this studio means business. There's not much else I can say about this one, except I just think this logo's amazing. Moving on. This one just does too much too fast. Some children bunch together in a circle, the camera spins around them, and then they quickly open up a huge cloth that has a globe pattern on it or something. I can't really see. It happens in less than a second. Then the kids are standing around the sides of a real globe as they release some random orb thingies into the open sky around them, and then everything fades away, and in their place is the golden Saban logo. It's creative and cheerful, I guess, but it's just too quick for me to understand the deeper meanings behind any of it. God, I'm getting old. You wouldn't have thought that this was the logo behind the same studio that made Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, and the Powerpuff Girls, would you? It has a silver star swirling around in circles in a black void, while colorful rainbow streaks are shown frozen out of the star, and it doesn't stop until the right moment, when the star is in the center and dead straight. The sound of the star swirling around is fine enough, but that sound when the star stops sounds so angry and intimidating to me. Maybe if this logo wasn't usually after the catchy Powerpuff end credits theme, I would have been more creeped out by this, but not really. It's just fine. There was another Hanna-Barbera logo that I remember on Cartoon Network, and it is The one where the studio's famous cartoon sound effects try to make a little music theme, while some random frames of animation from their 60s cartoon characters flash about inside of a moving rectangle. I always liked this ending frame of Fred Flintstone rolling his eyes in an innocent way. I don't know why, but I always liked that as a stupid little kid. There was another variant of the same logo with 70s Barbera shows. But it's not really as good. The sound effects sound a lot more creepier, and they sound like they are screaming at you. Even if they had used some more familiar, wacky sound effects, none of them would have really fit in alongside those flashes of heroic, superhero-esque characters they had, like Johnny Quest. I'd prefer the other one. Oh yeah, and I can also remember a specific logo at the end of some old Dexter's Lab episodes, and it is... nothing of worth to say. No clear direction with this one at all. I only thought about talking about this one just for conclusivity. Yeah, before we get to the creepy one, let's see this older logo from the early 90s. It has some wacky sound effects, with one of them sounding like a laughing seagull, while the colorful letters are shown. Each letter of the name Klasky appears in a different distorted animation, while Csupo is scribbled on with a crayon or colored pencil. And then we see that the long string of letters has been changed to 2 rows of letters, and despite the colorful introductions, they all fade their color away, except for the letter Y, for some reason. I'm nearing the end of this video, and by now, I have completely run out of opinions to say, or things to say in general. This logo is just... alright, okay? But at the very least, it's a lot better than...
Klasky Csupo.
Yeah, funny thing. You have all seen me ranting for the past few hours in unnecessary detail about harmless logos that creeped me out as a kid. Well, we have got the complete opposite effect here. I have seen the entire internet say that this logo right here is one of the most disturbing ones ever made.
Klasky Csupo.
But me? I never found this logo scary. Never. In the slightest. It was mainly because I only saw it at the end of harmless, fun-filled Rugrats and Wild Thornberry broadcasts, so the fact that it still has some wacky visuals, a funny voice, and some comedic sound effects right after the cheerful, fun-filled adventures of Tommy Pickles, it was more amusing, if anything. Now, I can see why everyone else on the planet considers this logo scary. The deepest background is a purple static screen. The splatter of ink looks like an extreme close-up of an eye, and then a hand sweeps by, leaving behind 2 yellow rectangles with 2 giant eyes and a pair of red lips, and the animation on them as they read out the studio's name looks distorted and crudely done. The unnaturally shifting mouth can make some people feel uneasy. I can see why other people would consider this creepy, but I personally found it more amusing, with the face's voice and the silly sound effects. I personally found some of Klasky Csupo's character designs more creepy looking than this logo. Seriously, what were these people smoking when they came up with these? And at last, the final logo that I shall look at today, before I run out of steam and become severely repetitive, is...
Hi, I'm Paul.
a very creative one, famously only ever shown at the end of Jimmy Neutron episodes. Isn't it fitting that the production studio that made a show about a super intelligent child scientist is named DNA Productions? And they got very creative with the idea too. The palm tree trunks are DNA strands, the leaves and the stems in the bushes are molecules, and the center stage is Paul, the three-eyed chimpanzee. Obviously a genetic experiment was done on him. Oh, not just with the extra eye, but by giving him the voice of Rob Paulsen. Probably used him as a little extra favor after voicing Carl Weezer. He only says an introductory line, but you gotta love Paul. He's a socially chill kind of guy, and he even tries to make you fall in love with his charms as his secret Spanish waiter disguise, Pablo.
Hola, soy Pablo.
Yeah, you gotta love the fact that they put the effort into making different variations of this logo. One where Paul is missing.
Paul?
One where we see that there are actually two Pauls.
Hi, we're Paul.
One with his Spanish alter ego, an outtake version,
Hi, line.
and one that they decided to animate over what Rob Paulsen probably said before recording.
So what do you want me to say now?
So, yeah, this one is dead short, but they took advantage of the studio's name to the fullest in the visual department and made something nice and memorable.
Got a blast!
And I think I will end it all here before copyright wrings my neck too hard. This whole thing took way longer than I thought it would take. I'm not sure about reviewing another videotape anytime soon. I might have to watch some promos first before I can make up my mind. Who knows? I really don't.